Welcome back to the sound of my voice that you all missed last week. This is the Purple Rock. I'm John, my co-host is Andy, and I'm back from my vacation to reclaim my hosting gig.
Oh, thank God you're back. Don't ever leave again, John.
I have to tell you, Andy, my vacation, I am a Floridian, as you're well aware. Did you know that there are places in the world that are not entirely flat? Like, there are actual elevations.
I know this because sometimes I watch Survivor, and they like to put the contestants that they like the most on top of those mountains while they're meditating.
Yeah, I saw Aras on a mountain, and I said, oh, wow, those are actual real things. That's not just a TV production trick. That's a real thing that exists in nature. And I know this now because I've seen a mountain.
Anyway, I'm glad to have you back. I know you like to do the self-deprecating thing, which is weird because I'm the Canadian in the discussion, or you're like, oh, Andy is the key of the podcast. But I think after last week's effort, we know that not to be true. It kind of reminded me a bit of Heroes vs. Villains, where all the credit was given to Rob, but as soon as Tyson was taken out, the whole thing fell apart. So I guess what I'm saying is that you're the Tyson to my Boston Rob.
I'm fine with that. And I have to say that you almost got yourself fired because I heard many comments, and it was my thought as well as soon as I heard it. You suggested that Brad might be the earliest ever boot to be brought back, Andy. Do you know who you're forgetting in this scenario?
Well, there's other alpha males, and then there's those other characters that sometimes come back on shows. Is it one of those other ones?
You know what? I think you're having a little bit of a Probst moment here. There's also women that have played this game.
Wait, no. Wait, have they even won this game?
I'd have to go back and check Wiki.
Francesca.
You didn't mention Franny, the one double boot, or double first boot that we've ever had on this show.
Well, what I was doing is I was testing my co-host, and I think she might have been napping at the wheel at the time.
She may have been, but in her defense, she probably had a long day of taking care of the kids while you neglected them to watch Survivor.
And not to think about things that happened in the past, like a double first boot.
Right. I do want to say that I didn't get to talk about last week's episode, so I wanted to bring up one thing about that episode, and that was that Brad actually called himself a shield when he was being eliminated and sent to throw his buff in the flame or whatever it was that he makes him do.
During his exit poem.
Right. So it struck me that Brad, I mean, we'd kind of given him some credit throughout the season saying, you know, he's playing the only game he really can, but I didn't realize that it might have actually been that calculating. Like, he seriously thought all along, like, oh, what I'm going to do is make myself a huge lightning rod and take all the heat off of Monica, and hopefully this is my plan to get Monica to the end. Again, not the best plan and certainly not the best executed, but I give the guy some credit. He at least had a strategy.
Yeah, he's in his exit interviews. You know, obviously everybody likes to make themselves look better in these things. But he has said, wait to see what happens with Monica before you fully judge my game. And that a lot of the moves he was making was to protect Monica. So when he started shifting gears halfway through and voting out his own alliance, it's because he didn't want to vote out people that were connected to Monica who would then be pissed off at Monica and vote her out.
Right.
So, yeah. Maybe he had a strategy that wasn't exactly about winning for himself.
Right, yeah. I don't know if you're aware of this, but NFL players tend to make some money, so maybe he didn't need the money so badly. Well, not that Monica necessarily needs the money either, because I'm pretty sure they probably share a bank account. Anyway, that's all I really had to say about last week's episode. It did strike me that, you know, maybe we could have given Brad a little bit of credit, which I think we did. We weren't among the chorus that was saying he was a total idiot. That was clearly part of the edit, and Brad is far from being a Survivor genius or anything like that. But, you know, he played a very specific game. It didn't work for him, and it may not have worked for Monica. So we'll see how that shakes out.
Time will tell. So what did you think of this week's episode?
I liked this week's episode for a very specific reason. I think Tina is just shining. She seemed like a total godfather this episode, and it's subtle. Tina's game is never overt. She's always the puppeteer who makes other people do her dirty work and just plays the game behind the scenes. But I love what she does. I think that, well, we'll get to the eventual boot for this episode, but I think Tina's controlling that, and I love her strategy. I like how she's letting other people think that they're making decisions, and she's basically pulling all the strings behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, last week I had Tina pegged as being in the best position in the game. The way things shaked out this week, I think maybe that won't be the truth, just because of numbers and all that. But if anybody has the ability to continue to work their way up, that's currently still on the island, I think it's her. I'm again to join the chorus. Big fan of Tina. She's playing awesome, and I think this is validating. Not that she really needed it, but validating her first victory.
Yeah, I mean, and she also plays up this, I'm a sweet country girl from the hills, and totally disarms everybody as this nice motherly figure that, she's a sweet mom. She'd never, betray you, manipulate you, whatever. Tina is, she's just cold and calculating, but she just hides it behind this sweet southern charm, and I love it. Other than Tyson, she is my favorite player to watch this season.
I think it's a mix. I think, she probably genuinely is a very nice woman, and she's able to have that social interactions with people. But what she's able to do that others of her type that we've seen, some archetypes, especially recently, and like Lisa Whelchel or Dawn Meehan, is she's able to make that separation. So she does form bonds, and she is happy, and she probably genuinely likes some of these people. But Survivor's a game to her, and she's going to do what she needs to do. And she doesn't go to the cameras and cry about it. She isn't torn about it at all. She's ice cold. This is what needs to happen. This is what's going to advance me further. I'll talk to you guys all once I see you again, and I'm holding the $1 million check.
And Dawn is actually a very good comparison, because Dawn just didn't have that killer instinct. I mean, Tina is, and I hate her for this, for stealing my gimmick, but I think she actually is out there in some measure to make some friends, but it's friendships for the purposes of advancing her gameplay.
Yeah.
And Dawn's were actual friendships that made her feel guilty about backstabbing people, betraying people, etc.
Yeah, it's like, I've said this before, I think just the last podcast you're on, that this game is won by many different types and many different people. And one archetype that I felt was struggling the most, and that I was thinking may never win, is the matronly type, the matronly woman. Simply because it feels like there'd be too much social backlash. But I was kind of, when I was thinking that, I wasn't thinking of Tina. I was almost thinking, like, did she really do kind of the friendly, matronly thing in Australia? Or was it more of a calculated thing? But kind of watching now and thinking back, no, she was playing that role and was calculated. So that's kind of just the missing ingredient. So the older woman can win and compete in Survivor. You just gotta own it. You can't cry about it.
Yeah, and, I mean, for an older woman, she's not bad at challenges. She's definitely not a total liability like some people have been. I mean, some people far younger than her have been.
Yeah, well, she had the hammer position last night in the immunity challenge, right? I mean, she's going one-on-one with Tyson, which honestly might not have been the right move. But, I mean, one more throw and she was there, so it wasn't like she was failing it.
Yeah, she kept it surprisingly close, considering that I would give that advantage to Tyson 100 out of 100 times.
What's interesting, though, is I think Hayden is like a college baseball player, so probably one of those things where he was smart enough to defer to the wisdom and experience of Tyson, and also, if Tyson were to fail, the blowback would be all his. You're
giving Hayden a whole lot of strategy, and I'm entirely convinced that's because you have Hayden in our Survivor Fantasy League.
It's probably the only reason why I know he was a former baseball player. Well, speaking of Hayden, let's get to the start of the episode. So we start with Kat crying on the island about, and this is something we didn't get to talk about last week, so I'm glad that it was still a story, and her awesome, meme-tastic, who would ever want to date somebody who didn't make the merge?
It was definitely a big laugh line in my house. I actually had to pause it because I was laughing too much. I figured I wouldn't be able to hear what was coming next. And it just really strikes me as such a Kat thing to say. I mean, I think that's part of the reason they brought her back. I think you're right that they wanted Hayden, and so she was kind of the tax, yeah. Right. But I think they kind of figured when they were casting Kat to come back, like, if nothing else, these are the moments you're going to get from Kat. Yeah, like, I said it before, and everything we've seen this season has only confirmed it, that they wanted Hayden back. He was originally cast to be on Survivor, and then pretty much at the last moment, they're like, no, we'll put you on Big Brother. And then I guess they put Fabio on Survivor. So worked out for both of them, if not the shows themselves. But yeah, they probably like, Kat isn't somebody we'd put at the top of the list, but she's a pretty young girl, and she does and says funny things, so why not? Well, there was some reluctance maybe on Probst's part to bring her back, because we've heard some rumors, actually, well, not even rumors, they're directly confirmed by Probst in an interview he did with Chuck Klosterman. You and I have both heard this. It's on Grantland if you want to go dig it up.
And I recommend it. It was a great interview.
It really was. Klosterman's a fairly decent interviewer, and he got Probst to say some fun stuff, one of which was that they had a season, and Probst wouldn't specifically nail down which season it was, but given the timing of it, it certainly sounded like it was One World. And he said that there were 2 players cast in that season whose IQs were so low that he thought it ruined the game, and he never wanted to bring those people back again. There was 100% agreement when we discussed this in the AV Club comments that Leaf was one of those 2 people. There was some debate on who the other one was, and there was at least a large chorus of people that thought it might be Kat.
Yeah, so the way Probst said it, he was like, in the last year, or kind of past 2 years, it was kind of like one of those where he's kind of jogging his memory, so you don't nail down exactly the time, but clearly it was a recent season. So that kind of, for me, put it, he was either talking about Redemption Island, he was either or One World, or South Pacific. Because I think it was during Philippines that he was saying this.
Yeah, he actually specifically mentioned that the low IQ people were only on there because they had to fill a specific role, which I think was a big indicator that if it's One World, Leaf is definitely one of the 2, because obviously he was filling a certain role there.
Yeah, they were probably trying to cast for that role. Let's get us a little person. And then, yeah, it's not hard to stretch to think, oh, Kat was filling the young girl demographic, the young bikini model demographic. She's actually literally a bikini model. The other reason why I kind of jumped to the conclusion that it was Kat that he was talking about is he was kind of paternalistic in his comments, which, I know, shocking, Probst. But it was kind of like, these people are going to have a hard time in life, their IQs are so low. So that kind of suggested to me that it was somebody young. And when Kat was cast this season, I was like, well, okay, maybe it wasn't Kat, because why would you want to bring back somebody he thought was so dumb that they would ruin the game? But, like I said, I think they did it so they get former Big Brother winner on the show.
And also, they brought back Colton, and we're fairly certain that Probst was not a big fan of that decision either. So it might have been one of those cases where maybe Probst wasn't all that comfortable with Kat coming back, but he's not the only voice in that room, and he got overruled.
Yeah, maybe they were like, there's nobody else with an IQ that low. And her IQ got bigger. She remembered some of the answers.
It did kind of break my heart when she specifically said at the challenge, I can't even spell.
Yeah, Vetus. I know. Poor kitty cat. But yeah, I mean, watching just this episode, that poor girl, this is just not for her. And
yeah, Kat, if you're out there listening, don't ever change. You're adorable, but I don't think you're a Survivor winner.
Yes, but I think it was worth it to see what Hayden was able to do with her. So you get there, and he just starts to say his stuff, and Probst jumps on it and is like, well, prove your love. Swap with Kat. And Kat immediately was like, oh, yeah, swap with me. And the way he was able to talk him out of that situation was just gold star material.
Yeah, it was kind of like the way you sort of deal with a child. Like, are you sure? Are you sure? I'm going to ask you one more time. Are you really sure? And then finally the child just says, I guess not, and relents.
Yeah. Like, yeah, they pick up on what you were saying. But yeah, she was like, yeah, I think you should switch with me. And he's like, well, let's just think about this. He's like, no, I think I'm not. It's a puzzle. I can't even read or whatever. And then he goes again. And what was great about it is just the words he used. It was that, think about this long term, which I think is just kind of like a buzzword that'll circle in a dating woman's head.
Yeah, exactly. She immediately is going to make the logical jump to, oh, it's relationship talk now. Aw, I love him.
He's going to win this game, and we're going to share the money because he's clearly proposing.
Sure. But that said, though, do you think that Kat screwed Hayden's game at all? Because she basically made him publicly admit, yeah, I'm in a good place over here right now.
Well, see, I think that was Probst, actually. I think he interjected in that, well, Hayden, do you think you're in a good position? I know he was probably squirming a bit, and, you know, as an owner of Hayden in a fantasy league, I was a bit too. It's like, no, you're blowing up his spot. I think Kat herself might have unknowingly, we'll say, or maybe knowingly, let's give her a little bit of credit, done a little bit of damage control for him, because she was just hammering on he's such a trustworthy guy, he's such a great guy, you can trust in Hayden, nobody ever has a problem with Hayden. So that probably helped a bit.
Fair enough. I still think, though, that there was, and you're right, it may have come from Probst. I don't remember exactly, but there's a little bit of damage to Hayden's game there by him saying, like, no, I'm good where I'm at. I'm in a great position. I think at some point, if you're in his tribe, you think, are you really in a great position? Is there some alliance here that I don't know about?
I would say if he was down numbers, that would be more damaging. But really, he's in a 3-3 tie. So that's not a bad position, certainly better than what Cat was in. Which kind of speaks to the whole experiment of swapping with somebody on Redemption Island that they threw in this season. Anybody not in the game is, by definition, in a worse position than the person that's in the game.
Right. The thing that put you on Redemption Island was being in a worse position than your loved one.
Yeah, I mean, the only people that didn't apply to is the very first votes where, they were just kind of voted out for whatever reason. Like, I'm starting to think, like, Candace might have been in a better position if John had swapped with her. I mean, he's doing pretty good on Redemption Island. She probably would have helped that tribe win immunities, because there would have been a woman who could actually do something. And then they might have been able to get back together. Yeah, so that might have worked, but anybody else, no. I mean, you clearly have done things to harm yourself in this game. I have not, because I have not been voted out of the game. We should not switch, because it is not in our mutual interest to do so.
So we've kind of given Redemption Island a second chance and given it a bit of a pass this season. It's actually had some decent moments. Would you say that it's still working, though?
Let's be completely fair. This season is the best Redemption Island has ever been.
That's a very low bar, though.
Yes. But with recent episodes, it shows that it's a flawed concept, and even when it's at its best, it doesn't work. And I think what was happening in the early episodes was Brad Culpepper. Brad Culpepper's presence in the game and the lightning rod that he brought with people, coming in and it's like, F you, Brad Culpepper, and the sides fighting back and forth and all that, that made Redemption Island interesting. That, we were able to see almost real-time strategizing and positioning between two tribes. As soon as he was no longer a factor, this hasn't been that interesting.
No, I think another reason that it's been kind of neutered lately is those idle clues just aren't going anywhere. I think that was part of the appeal of Redemption Island this season was, we've got this new wrinkle that if you win it, you can give your clue to somebody. And, now those clues aren't going anywhere. So it's not really impacting the game in any way. And it just kind of feels like whoever comes out of Redemption is just going to be a very quick boot right after that.
That I disagree with a caveat. I think it'll depend on who comes out of there, and we'll discuss that more in our prediction segment.
Yeah, speaking of who comes out of there, I've totally forgotten that John is still in the game. Every time he appears on the screen now, I'm like, oh yeah, that guy. He's still playing.
Yeah, my namesake, or your namesake, is what I was saying your thought.
Right.
Yeah, I actually kind of had the same reaction this season, because he won again, and he won fairly convincingly, in a way that, again, suggested that he should have been doing the puzzles for his tribe. And then, if he had been, he might not be at Redemption Island right now. Yeah, and that's kind of gets to our point, that it just shows Redemption Island doesn't work. I mean, this is a competitor who is succeeding very well in this portion of the game, and who cares?
Yeah, I mean, if he does end up being the person that comes back, and I don't think he is. I actually think it's going to be Laura at this point. But if he is the person that comes back, is he in a great position?
No. The best that could happen for John if he comes back, let's just jump ahead and have little predictions for Redemption Island at least, is he could be a swing vote for the first time. Right now, there's kind of several different permutations of 5 versus 5. So maybe one of those groups would bring him in as a 6, because it's going to be 11 people no matter what. So he could be valuable in that scenario. But after that, no. I mean, they just get rid of him. He's inconsequential from a strategic standpoint.
Right, and that's, again, he's only useful if you think that it comes down to a 5 versus 5. I mean, it's entirely possible.
Be, exactly.
Right, that there's a 7-person majority already that's just going to start picking off the other side.
Yeah, or, there is a 7 to start, and then it switches over and switches back and forth in a few different ways. In which case, yes, John would be inconsequential. In fact, Laura might be as well. But, yeah, I mean, it's just, these are all the flaws of Redemption Island. But the biggest flaw is just the storytelling structure. And I don't even mean the time that it's taken away. I think the season's actually been pretty good in showing, developing characters and showing strategy. I think that was what was the best elements of this past episode. But, and Jonathan Penner pointed this out, each episode now starts with the end. We start by finally seeing who gets to leave, and then it ends in the middle.
It is a very awkward narrative structure. You start with the final appearance of somebody, and then you get to the end of the episode where they're voting someone out, but they're not actually leaving. It's a little jarring. It's one of the many, many complaints that we've had about the Redemption Island gimmick in the past, and there's been some positives to it this season. I just think long term, it's not necessarily going to help the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think the positive developments is that it created a few moments of good television. But the negative should be just the full stop final argument about Redemption Island. And everything else we've all talked about removing challenges or all that, is kind of inconsequential to this point, is that you've sucked the drama out of the main part of the show. Every episode of Survivor for a dozen years was, who is going to get voted out? How is somebody going to get eliminated? That's gone now. Now it's who is going to go to this other place and then compete in parlor games, at which failure or not will determine whether they continue to be somewhat on the show.
Yeah, getting voted out now has lost almost all sense of permanence. I mean, there's still blind sides, but it doesn't feel as dramatic, only because ooh, you got blindsided, but you may not be out of the game. It's not as, there's not a period at the end of the sentence yet.
Yeah, well, the first big moment from a tribal council perspective this season was the blindside of John, who, as we discussed, is still on the show.
Right. We haven't seen the end of John's story yet, although I think we'll see it very soon.
We kind of feel like we have, because we just don't care.
Right.
Because the drama of Survivor is the strategic element of voting people out. And I know they put it in as like hey, it's a chance to continue to see people you care about. But problem is, they rarely make us care about people who get voted out early.
That's a very good point. Speaking of Redemption Island challenges, though, I had a minor bone to pick about this one. First of all, there was a comment about whether or not it was cheating to look at someone else's puzzle. Fishback actually... with Stephen Fishback, who was on Survivor Token Teens and now does a podcast with good old Rob Sesternino. He made a joke on Twitter about how Jeff Probst was constantly mocking him for copying JT's puzzles back in his season and saying that it was cheating in that scenario. But now Probst seems to be totally fine with the cheating aspect. First of all, it's not cheating. It's fine.
Yeah, there's been talk about this back and forth. Is it cheating or not? No, who cares? I mean, it's like people who get up in arms about betrayal or all that. It's like, no, that doesn't exist. You know what cheating is? Is if they specifically prohibit you from physical contact with a competitor and then you push them. That's cheating.
Right.
Looking over in this is a smart way to try and continue to stay in the game. And frankly, it's something that Survivor wants to happen. And that's probably why Jeff doesn't talk about it anymore. Because anytime there's a group challenge that almost always ends in a puzzle, they rarely ever cover up the puzzle. Because from a structural perspective, they want that second team to catch up.
Right. From a drama perspective, you're keeping the other team closer by giving them the chance to, quote-unquote, cheat.
Yeah, and it almost always happens that the team does well in the physical portion, and they get to start on the puzzle first, and they have to do the early work of kind of figuring out how the puzzle works. Next team struggles, maybe they can't even paddle their boat or whatever, and they get to come, and before they even really start, they get to look over at a puzzle, underway, and jump on. And they don't have to have that learning curve. That happens all the time, and the show wants that to happen because they want close finishes.
Yeah, it makes the show more exciting when the challenges aren't a complete blowout. It's just like any sporting event. If you're watching a blowout, yeah, you maybe respect the accomplishments of the team that's blowing out the other one, but it's not very exciting to watch.
But yeah, in terms of cheating, this is like discovering the other team's plays. It's just competition. Unless, I don't know, you're a baseball purist and you think that stealing signs is a problem, but I don't even think it's akin to stealing signs. It's just you're using your environment to help you succeed.
The one thing I will say that I had a slight problem with about this particular challenge, I kind of think Kat got screwed by the color of her puzzle. This is a very minor point, but there was a lot more contrast in the other people's puzzle. Kat had a yellow on yellow puzzle. Laura M. had like a pink on yellow. I forget what John's was, but the point is, if you're out in the bright sunlight and you're looking for a light yellow line on yellow puzzle pieces, it's not as easy to see versus what Laura and John had to go with. I mean, Kat's going to lose anyway, but I will say that she got at least a slight disadvantage from that.
Yeah, that one I didn't notice, so I'll have to take your word for it, but that's possible. The other thing is Kat couldn't cheat the way that Laura did, if you want to call it cheating, as easily, because she was farther away from John's puzzle.
Yeah, I mean, if she really wanted to cheat, she should have just gone over and kicked Laura's puzzle down.
Yeah. See, that would be cheating.
Yes, that would
be prohibitive. Jeff would be like, you're out of this challenge, and Laura wins. But, yeah, I mean, Laura was standing next to John's. Kat had to look through Laura. But at the same time, that's why, Jeff always says, we drew for positions, and nobody really cares about that part. Sometimes, I guess, maybe it does affect it in some way. But I guess in this time, it's what they do is boot order. So the person who's been on Redemption Island the longest went, one side, then middle, then newest. But at the same time, you could have made that puzzle black and white, and you could have put Kat right next to John's puzzle. It wouldn't have mattered. She wasn't doing this. She can't even spell. As
she said herself. But it's not really impacting the season. You know who is impacting the season? Vetus.
That guy. I friggin' love him.
I do too. The one thing that I will say is I'm giving Tina tons of credit this episode. I still like how Vetus is playing. I do have one, it's not even like a criticism of his play. It's just he's doing what a lot of first-time players do, and he's overplaying too much. It's not subtle, some of the stuff that he's doing. Like he was laying it on very thick about Kat last week and how you couldn't trust her and blah, blah, blah. That actually worked to his advantage because Kat was very easily manipulated and started scrambling once he did it. But then just the over-the-top, I think the most difficult part of this game is trying to betray people's trust. And
now, what do you like least about this? And he was like, dishonesty. I gotta say, when he did that and he's laying in the hammock with the other ladies, I almost just stood up and started clapping. I was like, bravo, buddy. That was phenomenal.
Yeah. To me, I can guarantee you that Tina is sitting on the other end of that hammock saying, uh-huh. Sure, she sees right through it. I mean, it actually might have worked on some of them, but I think that a smarter player is going to see right through that. That's the only answer he could really give. But
well, Laura B. obviously took it hook, line, and sinker. Whatevs. I don't know. Tina was ready to marry him off, so maybe she liked it too.
Apparently, Tina's just ready to marry Katie off to any takers.
That's right.
She's like, I don't care. Just go ahead and knock her out and knock her up then, because I want grandbabies.
Yeah, I think, there's some people that are concerned that Vetus is doing a little bit of pitching past the cell. I think it's a little bit like last week where people thought Tyson wasn't being very subtle with his anti-Aris campaign. I think some of it's influenced by the edit. We see what's going on. We are being shown it. We're being told it by Vetus himself of what he's doing. It might not be as obvious to people on there. We're seeing a few seconds here or there. I think maybe it's a bit alarming in that he's getting a bit of an arrogant edit, which could foretell doom. But I think it was working. I think the ladies liked him. He's their little pet, and there's some argument and discussion about whether he is saving himself or is he being saved because he works into the plans of others. I think there's a mix. And I think what's happening and what we're seeing is kind of what you and I were talking about 2 weeks ago in our sexism discussion, is that Survivor's terrible at showing the social game that is so important. They're showing us the social game right now.
Yeah, that we actually got a decent bit of it this episode. But you sort of touched on a point that I saved from earlier in the podcast because I was going to mention this when we were talking about Tina. I am 99% sure that Laura B's boot this episode was entirely a Tina mastermind planned event. Like, I think what she did was she had this fortuitous event where Laura B said, hey, Vetus, we're voting you out. And she said, oh, good. This is finally the tool that I can use to get Laura B out and keep Vetus around. I think she's still got a fairly strong alliance with Vetus and Aris and, of course, her own daughter. And I think that the way Tina's game seems to work is that she lets other people get the idea and be the one to suggest it. So she probably had a casual conversation with Monica in there somewhere that we didn't get to see. And then Monica had this brilliant idea that maybe they should get rid of Laura B because they can no longer trust her and she's a blabbermouth and blah, blah, blah. And suddenly Tina's getting exactly what she wants. Her hands aren't dirty in any way.
I mean, I have no problem believing that. I want to believe it. It makes complete sense. Not only because it seems like Tina and Aris were tight. Pre-game interviews, she was talking about aligning with, hopefully, quotation marks, aligning with Aris. So most likely they'd already kind of arranged something. And it just makes sense. They are the final two couples still in the main game in terms of loved one pairings. And Aris and Tina are also the only two former winners. So it makes sense for her to want to pair with that guy to keep the heat off of herself. The one thing I would do to throw salt on the idea that Tina was planning on voting out Laura B the whole time is that for the second week in a row, we get a confessional of Tina saying, I was going to vote out Vetus, but now this is happening. And you just wonder, why is she lying to the camera? Where's the value in that?
That's a good point. Maybe I'm giving Tina too much credit, but I don't think so. I really do think that she's got a solid grasp on the game, and she's hiding behind this I'm a sweet Southern mommy thing, and I think this was her plan that got executed through others.
And here's a possible theory. Maybe Tina is able to have such good control and relationships with people because she keeps the story straight even if she's just telling it to nobody.
She's lying to herself to make the lie work.
Yeah, because some people, and we've seen it this season especially, they'll say something super clever, they think, in a confessional, and then they can't help but say it later when they're in front of people. Like Vetus did that last week, where he was hammering home a point in a confessional that was pretty clever, and then he said it at tribal council again. It was like, whoa, dude, you weren't supposed to say that in front of people. Or Tyson this week saying the one-man wrecking ball thing that he said last week. So maybe Tina just has such control that she doesn't betray her lies even to the cameras. Or that she doesn't want to come off as a betrayer or a liar on television. So
because she is that sweet Southern grandma. Well, she's not a grandma yet. She's still trying to get those
That's
grandbabies.
right. She wants her grandbabies. Not like that Laura M.
Hey, speaking of Tyson, though, we got the tease that Tyson is now potentially plotting against Aris. First of all, do you think this is actually happening? And second of all, if it is happening, is it going to work?
I think it's absolutely happening. I think they've been teasing it for 3 weeks now. If it was just smoke, that'd be really terrible storytelling. You do it for an episode to create some kind of, boot confusion or suspense. But I think something has to come to a head or they've wasted our time.
That's a good point. I can still see a way that they weaseled themselves out of this by having Tyson stage this as a, hey, we're all going to vote out Aris, and then uses that to get, because right now they're basically at a 3-3 split on that group. Not that it necessarily matters by the time we get to next week because we're merging, but if they had to break that 3-3 tie, telling everybody to target Aris and then flipping one of them would probably be the move to do anyway. But it's very possible that he actually is going after Aris, and because he made a very solid point, Aris and Vetus together is a potentially very powerful couple, and doesn't hurt to get rid of one of those two.
Yeah, I think it's entirely possible that it was a feint as a just in case with this group, but he was talking about it before he was ever put with this group, so I think Tyson is focused on getting Aris out, and it almost kind of matches his historical mindset that he gets really focused on an individual. In Tocantins, he needed to get Brendan out, him and Coach. We're going to slay that dragon. And then more famously, in Heroes vs. Villains, he really wanted Parvati gone, to the point where he voted himself out.
Yeah, this is what concerns me, is once Tyson gets too much into the strategy as the lead strategist, things tend to go poorly.
Yeah, so for 2 weeks in a row now, I've been predicting, I think it might be Tyson if they go. And look, I haven't been wrong. They haven't gone. So
I think you just did that to troll me.
That was a side benefit. It was also, the mental gymnastics I have to do to protect my own players. I'm not doing that anymore because I think Tyson is going to do what he's talking about, and I think he's going to be successful, at least in the short term, because Aris is getting a bit of a fool at it right now.
He is getting that a bit, and so now if you're thinking this is going to be successful, does that also doom Tina's game if Aris is gone?
Not convinced, because Tina's such a great operator that I think she could work her way out of this, and that was kind of what I was getting at before. That I think Tyson might be successful on some level, either removing Aris or Vetus, but I think Tina could work her way out of that. There are other moves to be made, because here's the other thing, I could see it backfiring horribly on Tyson.
Yeah, I think what could potentially happen here, and again, this pains me because I love Tyson, but I'm still convinced that he'll never win. I think what could happen is Tyson is successful in getting RS out, and now he's in this leadership position, and everybody says, you know what? Now the heat's on Tyson, let's get him out. And he doesn't last all that much longer after he manages to get RS out of the game.
Yeah, I kind of see it like a Brad Culpepper situation. I'm going to get rid of this John guy. He's untrustworthy. And then let's get rid of Brad. And that's completely what I see is happening and why I've been preaching that it's a bad move for Tyson to move against RS now. But the way like this episode specifically is Tyson, he's Tyson. He's awesome. He's fun. And they're letting him be fun. And they're letting him give the interviews about his plans and get the jokes in. And then we get Aris sitting by himself on the top of a mountain saying, I'm in a really great position. By all indications, he has no clue. And whether he does or not kind of doesn't matter. If they're showing him to be a guy that has no clue, it probably means that things don't go well for him.
Yeah, when you're given that edit that says either, yeah, I'm in a really great spot right now, or, I'm in control of this game, that's basically your sign that you're just doomed. You're gone in the next episode or the one after.
And that was just such a stupid move. I mean, I get that he probably meditates every day, and he tried to insulate himself with hey, does somebody else want to come? But you never walk away from your entire tribe and just sit there by yourself. I mean, Boston Rob initiated the buddy system. If the only time you should be leaving them alone is A, because production's taking you away to give your interviews, B, nature calls, or C, because you're off trying to find an idol. If Aris was given this time to go sit on a mountain so the helicopter can film him, he should have been looking for the freaking idol.
I'm glad you specified point B, because I was actually going to ask, so if you were on this show, are you taking a deuce right at the camp? Because I think that would maybe not go over so well with your fellow players.
No, but maybe the move is to have the bathroom at least within earshot. Although sometimes maybe you wouldn't want that to happen.
Yeah, I don't know that you necessarily want your outhouse within smelling range of your camp.
Yeah, I guess earshot is smell shot, so nix that. But if you're going, if you're going away for personal reasons, you're probably not going out long enough to, get up to the top of the hill and have your, meditation and get the camera time enough to set up that shot. It's probably we never know when he's going to come back, so let's not get into a deep enough conversation.
Meanwhile, if you're going to drop a deuce, you're gone for 10 minutes after you finish reading whatever article you were on, and then you come back.
That's right. This tree mail is so interesting, I'm going to read it again.
So, anyway, back to the other tribe. We finally did get to, we mentioned earlier, Laura B's boot. She may have sealed her own fate. I'm not entirely convinced that her verbal blunder there was what did it.
But it didn't help.
No, it certainly did not help. I mean, she openly said to Vetus, hey, it's you this week, which I was watching with my wife, as I always do, and she said, why would you ever do that? And it actually struck me that this game has changed so much that at one point, I mean, there was Thailand, which was a very early season. There was a guy who this was a big part of his strategy, and he ended up winning. Brian Heidick would actually tell people, hey, just so you know, I don't want this to come as a surprise to you. You're going home. And he consistently deployed that technique whenever it was a very obvious boot. He eventually stopped doing it at a certain point, but he thought, because there was this prevailing idea that betraying people was wrong and it made you a horrible person, so he thought he would go the opposite direction and tell people, yeah, hey, you're next.
Yeah, and that happened, also I'm thinking All-Stars. Lex tried to make a point of it. I was like, I'm going to tell my buddy Ethan that I'm voting him out. I'm going to break the bad news to Colby. I don't think they really did it with Hatch, though.
Hatch was bamboozled.
That's right. I think it's just a relic of an earlier time. Because, even in those earlier times, Alex tried to do that in Amazon with Rob C., and that didn't work out so well for him.
Yeah, Rob C. was like, hey, thanks for the info, buddy. Guess what's coming next?
Yeah, it's I still got numbers. And that's kind of why. People will make moves now. People aren't just, not every person, I suppose. There's a few dormant players out there, but even they will make a feint oh, hey, maybe we should vote out this person. But I think the biggest thing that broke that away and what made every vote a blindside of some sort is the idol. The presence of the idol is why you can never tell somebody that they could be gone, because they might be an idol holder.
Yeah, or if nothing else, they can search for the idol. They can, there's still moves if you tell them that they're going to be the person voted out.
Yeah, so it is dumb gameplay in the year 2013, which is pretty much symbolic of all we've seen of Laura B this season. I mean, she actually was decent at challenges. There was the water one where she was out there untying things. I mean, when she remembered what the point of her task in the challenge was. Even this week, I mean, they almost won. If Tina hits a bolo throw before Tyson does, they win. So she wasn't the drain that we thought she'd be.
I think that Rupert probably taught her that, if you're great at challenges, you'll be a real asset, and this will help keep you around. And
useful at camp, and people will like you.
Right, and I think that was the strategy she deployed, and it at least kept her around until almost the merge, so it wasn't...
Yeah, for somebody we thought would just be turned around and voted out right away. I mean, she survived past Laura M. and Kat, so... this is probably the level best that she was ever going to do, unless you believe that she did talk her way out. And again, I'm maybe a 50-50. I think nobody was really all that jazzed to keep her around, and then she gave them the ammunition they needed. I also am not entirely convinced that they should have voted her out. I think that was kind of maybe a bad move. Maybe not for everybody. We've discussed the reasons why Tina wouldn't have wanted to do it, but yeah, she's not a threat in 24 hours.
Yeah, if nothing else, she's a solid vote, but I think what happened is Tina already has her daughter and Monica on that tribe, so it comes down to Laura B. or Vetus, and she's going to keep Vetus because Vetus is her connection to Aris, and she needs those numbers.
Yeah. Basically, the book of Laura B. at the end seems like a perfectly nice lady. She never should have been on the show. And that's not her fault. That's Survivor's fault. They had such a hard-on to get Rupert on for the 4th time that they didn't really care who his loved one was. Like everybody else, it's almost like a split. You have to decide, who do they want here? Yeah, I think for some of the returning survivors, they wanted their loved ones. I mean, most definitely with the Culpeppers, that was the situation.
Clearly.
I've already said that I think that was the situation with Kat and Hayden, and probably a few others. And then, obviously Tyson was the draw there. I thought for a while that Aris was the draw. Former winner. I mean, he looked like one of kind of the gold star players, but the more we see, it's like, I think they brought Aris back because of Vetus. But Laura B is not somebody they would ever cast in any scenario, not even the kind of the salt of the earth person. This is just not a game for her.
Right, yeah. If this were a normal season with no returning players, and she's just a random face in the crowd applying, they don't take her.
They don't even look at her twice, because she had nothing to offer. I mean, she's just a kind of a nice person that was wallpaper. And anytime that she had to do any kind of move, it was hard to watch.
It was. She was not very well trained in the social game.
But hey, she hasn't left yet, right? Right? She could win next week, huh? Should we want to start in on predictions there?
Yeah, hey, why not? She's not going to win next week.
No.
There's my prediction.
There's both of them. She's the first one out. So yeah, before we get into predictions, and I think we're going to take a little bit of time on this because next week is the merge. Spoiler alert. It's been confirmed by the commercials. And if you're the kind of person that wants to avoid spoilers, you're not the kind of person that listens to hour-long podcasts about a 42-minute show.
Right.
There will be a merge next week, and they're bringing one person back from Redemption Island. And they're doing the challenge where you hang on top of a pole and rest on tiny footholds. Laura B's losing. Who's winning?
Laura M.
Yeah. And why is that?
Small feet. I think that John has better upper body strength. I don't think that matters. I think at some point he's going to slip, and Laura M. wins it.
Yeah, I think he'll put up a valiant fight. I think this is something that might go an hour or something, but this is just not a challenge built for buff men. There have been a couple men that have won it. They were the wiry monkeys, Tyson, Ozzy. But otherwise, yeah, this is the challenge that thinner women win almost all the time. And what's actually kind of interesting, this would almost be the challenge for Sierra to say, hey, Mom, I'll swap places for you. Like, this is the only challenge that Sierra could contend in.
Oh, is Sierra still in the game?
Yeah. Let's talk about that. Yeah, you put something in an email, and I'm ready to just respond to you, Probst.
So, first of all, I want to call her Cowboy Sierra from now on because she reminds me so much of Cowboy Rick. We see her, but we never hear from her. She's just in the background of shots. She just kind of exists. It's as if she's just a production staff member that was walking through and they happened to catch her on camera.
See, yes, so you wrote that in the email, and this is where I'm just going to totally blow open your bias. And I think it's just because you're tired of me talking about her. She's had interview segments in almost every episode, including last night. She was the one that got to narrate Tyson's plan.
Oh, to be clear, I want to call her Cowboy Sierra strictly to troll you in response to your trolling me for Tyson.
Yes, no, but Sierra's a presence. I mean, a lot of the presence that we've seen is like, wow, she's not very good at anything. But she's gotten interviews in every episode, and generally people have talked about her, you know? When pre-switch, there was always like, I really like Sierra. She's a really great girl. Now, full disclosure, each of those sentences, every time somebody said that, kind of felt like it was followed by a, but we got to get rid of her. But those sentences exist, so as much as it's hard to imagine any kind of scenario that such an underwhelming player could win, they've developed her enough that I think she's at least going to be around for a long time. If not, some kind of crazy Natalie White situations in place. So,
and I will say that at the very least, somehow, inexplicably, if this 5-person plan and then we vote out RS and blah, blah, blah that Tyson was proposing in this last episode, if that actually works, our 2 picks will inexplicably coast into the final 5 through nearly no demonstration of their own utility in this game. Caleb and Sierra would make it to the final 5 based on being there to help Tyson and Jervis vote other people out.
Yeah, I mean, at least Caleb has his Brad Culpepper moment, which was incredibly memorable. May not have even been all that smart. I guess what we're talking about, those were our picks to win at the beginning of the season. And then we also play, and we've talked about this on the podcast, but a fantasy game where you can draft 2 players. Or at least I play that, and you total the scores. In that game, just to keep everybody updated, I have Sierra, and I also have Hayden, which means I have 2 players that are still in the main game. And as a result of that, no matter all your trash talking, I'm currently in second place, which I wanted to point out. But more, I just wanted to ask a question to you, because you did play in this league last year, and it's looking like you might be able to play next year. I wanted to ask you, because I've never experienced this for myself, what's it like to have a player not make the merge?
Well, I can say that it can help you get to, say, 7th place in a 10-member league, and it will definitely keep you from getting to play in the league next season. In my own defense, at the very least, I didn't take Team Tie-Dye, and I also did not do the mistake that someone made last year when he took Francesca and Shamar, I believe it was, and he was done by episode 3.
But both of my players made the merge this time, and they both made it last time. It'd actually be interesting to see if I again be the last player to lose a player. And then it'd be also really funny if, again, it happened on the same episode.
Yeah, I believe last year you lost both yours on the exact same.
Andrea and Reynold, same episode.
If only the challenge had been throwing things into things, Reynold could have won.
Okay, so yeah, we both think that Laura Moret's going to come back in the game, mostly just due to past history and physiology. But we should also give her a bit of credit. She's been competing with a fire in her belly, so go Laura. I think her coming back into the game, to go back to our earlier discussion, could really change things. Like, I don't think that she gets voted out right away if she comes back in.
Again, it's going to depend on a lot of different moving parts here. If you believe that there's this alliance going on with Tyson, Jervis, Hayden, Caleb, and Sierra, then yeah, maybe she's a crucial piece to that. She obviously is going to combine with Sierra and be a 2-person vote. But I don't know that I see it shaking out that way. I do think that at some point Tyson is probably going to target Aris, but I don't think that it's necessarily going to help to have Laura M in that group. So
we'll start breaking down the permutations, because this could go so many ways. Merges are always fun. I mean, sometimes it's obvious, when there's a bit of imbalance, but even those have not always turned out the way it should have. This one, I don't know where it's going to go. So if you're trusting the editing, the most obvious divide is the Tyson 5 versus the ladies and the Buskauskas brothers. Now, the ladies and the Buskauskas brothers don't know that they're in a 5 versus 5 scenario. If that's the way it goes, if Tyson is serious about what he wants to do and he's got his 5, well, Laura M is his 6. And it's obvious. She's united with her daughter Sierra, and she hates Aris for backstabbing.
Sure, but do you think that Tyson goes and mentions his plan to Tina?
I don't think so. I think if he's going to make his move on Aris, he'll have all the players he needs for it to happen. He could always try to mend fences later to put himself in a better position, but take out Aris now and deal with the consequences later. All he needs is the 4 other people that have already agreed to do so, and the one person coming back that would love to do so.
Although I will say that if he actually does manage to take out Aris, then that makes my Aris backstabs Vetus prediction from earlier this season totally moot, because Aris won't have the chance to do so.
I kind of think there's a 0% chance on that happening right now. Even if it was something that Aris would have done, I think there'll never be a chance to that, because both of them will either be taken out or they will have to unite against forces that are conspiring to take them out.
I wonder, though, once Aris gets voted out, because unfortunately they are going to bring Redemption Island back after the merge, I wonder if Aris gets his place taken by Vetus. If Vetus does my brother, I'm coming here to redeem myself, my relationship with you, and he jumps in and takes his spot.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. I think there's only 3 ways it could happen now. The Buskauskas brothers or the mother-daughter combos. And the mother-daughter combos are the only way I see it happening. I see a mother taking her daughter's spot, just selfish parent-child stuff. But even that, I think, is fairly low probability, because I don't see either daughter getting voted out before their mother.
I'd have to agree with that, just because the daughters both seem to have much less of a strategic mind than either mother.
Yeah, their mothers are threats, they are
right.
not. I suppose it's possible that Katie would get voted out ahead of Tina, but only if kind of Katie and Tina have already decided that's the right move to put one or the other on the jury. But otherwise it'd be, Tina and Katie in the final 3. Or you take out Tina first because she's incredibly dangerous. So what could happen is, yes, the Tyson 5 plus Laura M vote out Aris, and then maybe they pagong the rest. But I don't even think that's the permutation that would happen. I could see the Tyson 5 and Laura M taking out Aris, and then a new configuration coming together and taking out Tyson. Or we have 5 returning players in the game and 5 non-returning players in the game. So maybe all this, hey, we got a new alliance talk, and Vetus saying, we're together and all of that. Maybe that just doesn't bear out, and the 5 loved ones decide we're going to finally take over this game.
Yeah, I don't think it breaks that way at all.
No, probably not. But where I could see that happening is after they take out Aris.
Even then, it's a stretch.
You don't think that Caleb and Hayden would say, hey, Vetus, Katie, let's do this now. It's one less threat. Let's take out Tyson next. And maybe it wouldn't completely break that way, and that, Tina would still be around and Laura M would still be around. But I could see it for a couple episodes that the loved ones now start taking over to take out Tyson Jervis or Tyson Monica. And then the mother-daughters come together and start taking out the others. This could go a lot of different ways.
It certainly could. So let's record a prediction here. Where do you think this next vote goes?
I think Aris goes if he doesn't win immunity, and if he does, I think Vetus goes.
Ooh. I hadn't even thought of the possibility of Aris winning immunity, but I guess it's certainly possible. The guy's fairly decent at challenges. I don't know that it can be this next episode that it's going to be Aris. I kind of feel like if Tyson's a mastermind behind a plan, it's going to backfire. There's just too much history there. I'm trying to think, though, of who else is still fodder in this game. I want to say Sierra just to continue my Sierra's going home this week prediction, but there's really just no reason to send Sierra home at this point.
Sierra's going to be on for another 4 to 5 episodes guaranteed. Just because, why? Why take out Sierra? There's no advantage to be gained. The only reason why you take out Sierra is if it's definitely a 5 versus 5 unbreakable fight, and she's just the one would never get the immunity idol. But there's 11 players, so.
Right. And assuming that Laura M's coming back, then she's a part of a twosome. Maybe that's why you would target her, but I still don't see. I really want to find...
No, you target Laura M. Unless you're really afraid of that twosome and somehow not afraid of Tina and Katie. And Laura M wins immunity because, it's not uncommon for them to do one male, one woman.
Right, and I'm really just grasping for straws to look for reasons that Sierra could potentially go home. I don't see it happening.
I think you need to prepare yourself for the fact that the very least, Sierra might be here till the final Sunday of the season, even if she's the first person voted out of that episode.
And that's entirely possible. You know what? I can't see any other way that this goes other than Aris, although it seems too predictable to say him. I guess I'll just go by default with Aris.
The thought is that the show often just sets these things up to fool us. But in Heroes vs. Villains, they set up the Rob versus Russell thing from the very beginning. And, yeah, Russell took out Rob, just like he said he would.
Yep,
so
it did happen.
I kind of think that's what's happening here, and I hadn't. For the longest time, I thought, Tyson's dumb, and I still think it's the wrong move. Take out Aris a little later, and keep him as your shield now. But I think he really wants to do it, and it's kind of looking like Aris is going to let it happen.
And, yeah, well, let it happen, because he's apparently completely unaware that it could happen. He's underestimating Tyson and Tyson's bizarre tunnel vision about getting a certain player out of the game.
And, in terms of the backfire, I do think this will backfire on Tyson, in that he will get voted out not long after that.
Yeah, as we saw with Brad earlier in the season, once it becomes clear that you're cool with voting out members of your alliance before you need to, other people in your alliance start to get a little cautious about aligning with you.
Yeah, and maybe what's happening here, if you really want to dig into the edit, is okay, Tyson votes out Aris. And then Vetus, who's gotten the best edit of the season, this is the start of Vetus's path to victory. He's able to rally some troops together. Maybe he brings Sierra over to Katie, or just his old friends in Hayden and Caleb, the way I was discussing. They take out Tyson, and they start to take control of the game, and Vetus wins. And then another possibility I could see is women versus men, or maybe Tyson, all this talk about Tyson taking out Aris, as you say, maybe that's just a feint. And the Tribe of Five gets joined by Aris, Tyson, and Jervis, and they just take out Hayden. So that's another possibility. I'm excited to see how it'll go.
Likewise, I think there's a lot of ways this could shake out.
And the only thing that's going to ruin this exciting possibilities is Redemption Island.
Very true. And normally we would get into some deep historical discussion here, but we're already running pretty long. I'm going to go ahead and propose that maybe we skip it this week.
Yeah, we tried for the first half hour of our pre-discussion of like, hey, what was our historical discussion of what happened last week? And we were like, oh, well, that kind of happened. And we just drew a bunch of blanks. If you want your history discussion, we pretty much always talk about the histories of whatever. We talked about Heidick, and we talked about Hatch, and we talked about Redemption Island sucking away, so you got your history. We would never short our listeners of history.
Yeah, we sprinkled it in there like some delicious seasoning. So if any of you guys are interested in contacting us with topics for next week, maybe you saw some great historical discussion we could have had and we didn't, you can contact us in a new way. We're hoping at least. We have set up a Skype voicemail. If you want to call in, leave us a message. We're going to try, and I emphasize try, to take your audio calls, at least your pre-recorded ones, and respond to them in next week's podcast. So you can reach us on Skype at JR Purple Rock. And you can also always contact us via email at purplerockpodcast@gmail.com.
Or you can respond to us on Twitter at purplerockpod. Or, there's Tumblr, but you know what? Nobody ever actually comments on Tumblr. It's hard. I don't even think we're set up to receive comments on Tumblr. So just follow us and tumble us.
Yeah.
At Purple Rock Podcast, tumblr.com.
Yeah, do the thing that you do with Tumblr, whatever that thing might be.
Reblogging and posting of pictures. And
yeah, just send us a whole bunch of GIFs of various Survivor things or cats or whatever it is that goes on.
Oh, totally. If you have Survivor GIFs that you want us to reblog, let us know and we will, because you can never get enough GIFs in Tumblr. And join us again next week where it will again be us.
Actually, I'm thinking / hoping that we might have a special surprise for some people next week. We'll see. I'm not going to tip my hand as to what it is, but we're maybe going to work on something for next week's podcast.
And it's not MRAT Fink.
But until next week, thank you for listening. I am still Andy, he is still John, and we are still far too into this TV show called Survivor.
See you guys next week.